moonless night, cold mist clinging to dense jungle. Rapid breathing and static-filled radio chatter cut through the darkness. The SEAL team was trapped in a closing circle, ammunition running low, backup hours away. Over the radio, a desperate voice, anyone copy? We won't hold much longer. From the darkness across the valley, a calm female voice responded, I copy. Hold position. I'll handle the rest. Who would dare say that when an entire SEAL team was cornered with nowhere to run? Meet Alina Cross, 31, compact frame, brown hair, tied low. Calm face with penetrating eyes that held depths most never bothered to explore. Once called a master sniper, that title felt like it belonged to someone else now. She'd left active duty 3 years ago after a mission classified so deep its existence was officially denied, an operation where success was measured not in medals, but in the absence of international incidents and the presence of continued breathing among those who mattered. Tonight, she was stationed at the forward operating base for technical support. Her name appeared nowhere on the combat roster, nowhere on the deployment list, nowhere that mattered. She was furniture with a security clearance. The young SEALs had their opinions, whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. I heard she used to be good at long-range stuff, but now she just stares at computer screens. That rifle probably weighs more than she does. Wonder why they even brought her out here if she's not going to fight. Alina absorbed their dismissal without visible reaction. She'd learned long ago that proving yourself to skeptics was less important than proving yourself to yourself. Still, their words stung in ways she didn't expect. She'd voluntarily stepped back from combat, but being sidelined entirely felt different than choosing to step aside in the equipment tent. She sat alone, methodically cleaning an old rifle scope that hadn't been mounted in months. Around her lay scattered brass casings, relics from training sessions that felt like another life. The humiliation was subtle but constant. Her name was absent from mission assignments. Her input wasn't requested in tactical discussions. When the team prepared for insertion, she was assigned to monitor communications. Cross stays behind, the commanding officer announced during the briefing. Been too long since she's been in active theater. We need someone reliable on comms. The word reliable stung worse than any insult military speak for useful but not essential. A polite way of saying she was trusted with secondary responsibilities, not primary ones. Alina understood the logic. 3 years out of combat could dull reflexes, soften instincts. In special operations, margins for error were measured in milliseconds and millimeters. No commander wanted to risk unit effectiveness on past reputation rather than current capability. But understanding didn't make it easier. She examined the scope, remembering when it had been her primary tool, not a nostalgic artifact. Through it, she'd once been the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure, saving lives others took credit for. Now it gathered dust while younger, presumably more capable operators took point. The radio crackled, combat frequency. Alina instinctively turned up the volume, hearing clearly over the ambient noise of generators and air conditioning. Base, this is Viper 6. We have contact. Multiple hostiles, unknown numbers, closing from 3 directions. Her hand froze on the scope. Combat reports always sent adrenaline through her, even when she wasn't involved. She tracked unit positions on the tactical display, monitoring ammunition reports, calculating distances and angles automatically. Base, Viper 6. Situation deteriorating rapidly. Request immediate backup. The commanding officer coordinated response, but the nearest support was 40 minutes out. Air support was grounded due to weather. The SEAL team was alone. Alina sat down the scope and moved closer to the radio, her technical role suddenly feeling critical. The traffic intensified, automatic weapons fire growing closer, more sustained. She recognized the sound of a unit being overwhelmed. Viper 6, this is base. Air support negative due to weather. Ground units, en route, ETA 40 minutes. Copy, base. We'll do our best. The resignation in the team leader's voice hit like a physical blow. She'd heard that tone before, 8 years ago, in the Hindu Kush. Different mountains, different enemy, same desperate mathematics of ammunition versus time versus distance. She could smell cordite in mountain snow, feel her rifle's weight, taste the metallic fear of watching teammates disappear into uncontrollable terrain. That night, she'd made impossible shots, extreme range, degraded visibility, shifting winds because the alternative was watching her team die while preserving ammunition for perfect opportunities that never came. She opened her eyes, staring at the tactical display showing Viper 6's position. Similar terrain, similar disadvantage, same countdown to catastrophe. The rational part of her mind listed reasons to stay at her station. No combat authorization, violating protocols, risking other units. 3 years without firing a shot, muscle. Memory degrades. Equipment familiarity fades. Combat psychological pressure could break even experienced operators after too long away. But beneath the logic, Alina felt absolute certainty about what needed to be done. She walked to the weapons locker where her M200 intervention rifle was secured, her primary system during active duty, customized to her specifications, zeroed to her preferences. It was locked away, not because it was damaged, but because command hadn't anticipated needing her skills. Using her technical support credentials to access it would trigger review, possibly discipline, but administrative. Consequences seemed abstract compared to soldiers dying while she followed protocol. The locker opened with a soft chime. Her rifle waited, perfectly maintained, ready for immediate use. She lifted it, feeling its familiar weight. Her hands performed the inspection. Chamber clear, bolt smooth, scope mounts secure. The rifle was ready, was she? She recalled a conversation with her former commanding officer, Colonel Martinez, the day she requested transfer to non-combat duties. "You're the best long-range asset we've ever had," he'd said. "Why walk away at your peak?" "Because shooting isn't just pulling triggers," she'd replied. "It's deciding who lives, and I'm tired of those decisions." Now, the decision was making itself. She gathered her gear, rifle ammunition, rangefinder, night vision, medical supplies with practiced efficiency, muscle memory overriding thought. Viper 6 reported movement on all flanks, ammunition down to final magazines, casualties mounting. In 40 minutes, support would find either a successful extraction or a crime scene. Martinez's words echoed, "The weapon doesn't make the decision. The person behind it does." Sometimes, the hardest decision is choosing to act when everyone else waits. Alina stepped into the darkness beyond the base perimeter. The jungle was thick, visibility near zero, terrain treacherous. She had to reach a firing position before Viper 6 was overrun, quietly enough to avoid detection by enemy forces watching approaches. As she vanished into the undergrowth, Viper 6's latest report crackled. Less than 20 minutes of resistance remained. She'd covered impossible ground before. Tonight, she'd do it again, because she chose to. moving like a ghost, every step calculated, every breath controlled. Alina navigated the jungle. Thick undergrowth grabbed her equipment, loose. Stones shifted, branches caught her pack. Nature wasn't malicious, just indifferent. You worked with it, or failed. Using night vision, she found the most efficient route to high ground overlooking Viper 6. The tactical display showed a classic pincer movement, compressing the SEALs into an indefensible position. But the enemy's advantage could be there. Vulnerability from an elevated position behind their lines. She just had to reach it at 1,200 meters from Viper 6. She found a rocky outcropping, tactically perfect, but demanding a 20-meter vertical climb with full gear. Securing her rifle, she began. Her fingers found smooth granite ledges, boots located tiny footholds. Years of training sustained her, though 3 years of desk work tested her endurance. She reached the position with less than 10 minutes before Viper 6's collapse. Through her scope, she saw muzzle flashes surrounding the SEAL's position. The enemy had encircled them, reducing the perimeter with coordinated fire. Settling into prone, her body assumed the firing stance that was second nature. She adjusted for range, wind, and valley air currents. The first target was obvious, the enemy leader directing the assault 600 meters southeast. She tracked him, waiting for optimal exposure and conditions. Controlling her breathing, she let her heart rate slow, entering the meditative state of perfect shots. The rifle was an extension of her body, the scope her eyes, the trigger her intention. She exhaled, squeezed. The rifle fired with authority, recoil absorbed by her setup. The enemy leader dropped instantly, his communication and coordination ceasing. She worked the bolt, tracking a machine gunner pinning Viper 6, 800 meters out. Wind minimal but shifting, target exposure predictable. After 3 firing cycles, she learned his rhythm. Her second shot eliminated the gunner. Without suppressive fire, Viper 6 repositioned to defensible terrain. Unknown sniper, this is Viper 6, who's providing fire support. Alina keyed her radio. Maintain position. I'll handle overwatch. She didn't identify herself. Results spoke louder than names. The 3rd and 4th target squad leaders, reorganizing their units, fell within 90 seconds, disrupting enemy coordination. But 2 fighters had identified her position, moving to flank with professional skill. She had 30 seconds before they reached assault distance. Relocating would take too long. Instead, she secured her rifle and drew her combat knife. Waiting in the shadows, she eliminated the first flanker silently. The second arrived 90 seconds later, expecting his teammate. Her reflexes outmatched his. The engagement lasted 8 minutes, from first shot to flanking threat neutralized. Scanning the valley, she saw silence except for Viper 6's cautious movement to extraction coordinates. The enemy had withdrawn or been neutralized. She keyed her radio, Viper 6, area secure. Recommend immediate extraction. Copy, unknown sniper. Outstanding work. Can you identify for our report? Alina smiled in the darkness. Negative, Viper 6. Some ghosts prefer to remain invisible. She secured her gear and planned her return. Reaching the base 40 minutes later during a shift change, she cleaned and stored her equipment, leaving no trace. The next morning, an investigation began. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh, Viper 6's CO, entered the technical support area. Cross, a moment. Alina looked up. Of course, ma'am. Walsh studied her with intensity honed by years under pressure. Last night's operation. Monitored the traffic. Yes, ma'am. Heard it went well. It did, thanks to an unidentified sniper who appeared and vanished. Walsh paused. Any thoughts on who provided that professional-grade support? Alina maintained eye contact. Could be any number of assets, ma'am. Special ops don't always coordinate through standard channels. True, but this was something else. Walsh produced a spent brass casing, found at the firing position, custom match grade, fired from a precision rifle. Alina examined it without touching. Professional-grade equipment suggests a professional operator. Walsh placed the casing on her desk. It also suggests access to specialized ammunition, not standard for this deployment. The conversation edged toward danger, but Alina stayed composed. Ma'am, if you have questions about equipment, accountability, I can review documentation. Walsh smiled slightly. Cross, I'm not investigating. I'm offering gratitude. Whoever provided support saved for lives, including mine, with exceptional skill and risk. Alina felt the tone shift. I'm glad it worked out, ma'am. So am I. And I want that person to know their intervention was noticed, appreciated, and won't be forgotten. Walsh picked up the casing. Some actions transcend authorization. Some decisions are made by those who know rules, serve missions, not the other way around. Alina met her eyes. Most experienced operators understand that, ma'am. Walsh nodded. Cross, I'm recommending you for renewed combat certification. Your technical skills are valuable, but your other capabilities might be more so. Ma'am, I'm not sure. It's not a request. It's recognition of demonstrated capability. Walsh smiled. Sometimes the best way to remain invisible is to hide in plain sight. Sometimes the best way to be effective is to stop hiding. After Walsh left, Alina processed the exchange. Recognition without acknowledgement. Gratitude without documentation. A new message chimed. Assignment, modification, Cross, Alina, Advanced Combat Certification Review, Priority Status. She stared, then deleted it, returning to comms, a week later. Alina was back on active combat status, her name on deployment rosters as if it had always been there. The young SEALs who'd dismissed her now offered respectful nods. No one, explicitly, connected her to the sniper intervention, but military communities were small. People drew conclusions. Alina neither confirmed nor denied. She attended briefings, prepared gear, and trained with quiet professionalism, now with a sense of belonging absent during her technical role. During an equipment inspection, Sergeant Rodriguez, a former skeptic, approached. Ma'am, I wanted to apologize for earlier comments. I made assumptions without context. Alina looked up from her M200. No apology needed, Sergeant. Assumptions are natural without context. Still, I should have known better. In this work, appearances can deceive. They can, but they can be managed. Sometimes the most dangerous operators are unnoticed until it's too late. Rodriguez nodded. I'll remember that, ma'am. Alone. Later, at the base's shooting range, watching the sun set over the mountains that nearly claimed Viper 6, Alina held her scope to the fading light. It was just glass and metal, powerless without the person behind it, their training, judgment, willingness to act. She thought of young soldiers looking to experienced operators, commanders balancing protocol with reality, the line between initiative and recklessness. Most of all, she thought of the moment when training ended and character began. What are you willing to do when someone's life depends on your decision? She disassembled her rifle, its components fitting with satisfying precision. Effective teams worked the same way, individual capabilities combining to exceed their parts. As she secured her gear, Elena resolved to mentor younger operators, not with stories of midnight interventions, but to teach that strength came from preparation, professionalism, and decisive action. True power wasn't recognition or reputation, it was being ready when no one else could be, stepping forward when stepping back was easier. Some guardians worked in daylight, collecting medals. Others worked in darkness, leaving only results. Both were necessary. Elena preferred the darkness. Common Guardian, if you believe true strength reveals itself when no one's watching. Subscribe to The Heart Listens for more stories of invisible guardians who stand watch while others sleep.